So, welcome to a special episode of Get Real. Now, this isn't one of our usual shows where I have a guest on today, but there's something unusual that happened this week. I just discovered, I was doing some research into some recent cases, some recent arrests, and I discovered that two people, that was Kimberly and Santos Escobedo, were arrested earlier this week, for aggravated child abuse. Now, this case really really hit me really hard with some of the details after I read the report. I mean, this is something that is so disgusting. I mean, child abuse alone is a horrible thing for a child to go through. I don't know if anyone knows the depth of how bad this affects a child and their development, and even at the younger ages up through teens. But this really, is a disturbing story that I'm about to share with you. Now, I don't even know the age of these children, but I know that they are very young, okay? It's a residence in Spring Hill, Florida. This is, again, the arrest of Kimberly and Santos Escobedo. Their residence is on Deltona Boulevard. Now, I'm not going to reveal the exact residence because, of course, there's a lot of laws that govern how journalists reveal information. So we're going to keep that sort of private. But let me just give you a little background on this. And we posted the story earlier today on ournews.news. Now, this story is so disturbing. It is just unbelievable. So I want you to go to ournews.news to read all the details behind this story, okay? Because this is something that really just rips at you. I mean, it causes so much pain. I can imagine being the child, number one, the child who's gone through some kind of pain like this, some kind of abuse like this. But even from what I've seen from the responses from people who have read the story so far, this has been so disturbing. And I can imagine what the trauma that they've gone through. So for more than a year, these two children, I believe a boy and a girl, I don't know, because they don't give the exact ages or sexes of the girl and the boy. Maybe they're a boy and a girl. I don't know. We know there's a boy involved. But since September of last year, these two children have been locked inside of a room at a residence on Deltona Boulevard. We'll just say the 5100 block of Deltona Boulevard. They've been locked in this residence, beaten with a belt, obvious bruises on the face, abrasions, constant abuse notable since September of last year. We're only saying this is since the investigation began as of September of last year. But leading up to that, these two children haven't been in school for over a year before that by these adoptive parents. We don't know the history of these children. We don't know where they came from, how long they've been with the adoptive parents. But we do know that since the investigation began in September, that they've been locked in a room, sometimes in a closet. The door handles removed. The door made inoperable so you can't open it. Hasps. I don't know if you know the term hasp, but it's a locking mechanism so you can put a padlock on it to lock the door in. There's been scratch marks on the walls and on the door, holes punched in the wall, where these children have begged and kicked and screamed to just go to the restroom. They've been locked in all night long, sometimes all day long, never allowed to go to the restroom. These kids have been beaten with a belt in the face. And this is what's more disturbing. And again, I am not anti-law enforcement. I know that you have heard a lot of rumors. I am so pro law enforcement, and I'm absolutely for never defunding the police. I know you hear that a lot by the Democrat Party. But we have a problem in Hernando County, and right now we have a sheriff who allowed deputies to go into this home numerous times, September of last year, January of last year, of this year, February of this year, and allow these children to remain inside this adoptive parent's home with evidence of abuse, bruises, photographs taken of bruises, beating to the face, locks on the door, children saying they could not come out to go to the restroom. They had to urinate in their room, in their closet. This is happening. This was happening inside of a house on Deltona Boulevard for who knows, maybe more than a year. But nothing was done. Nothing. Nothing by DCF and the CPI investigators. Nothing by the sheriff's deputies who reported and made reports about the abuse going on inside this residence against these little kids. What is going on? Well, we haven't heard anything about this case. What we do hear is Sheriff Nienhuis posting things on his Facebook page about the low-hanging fruit, which basically are these big busts that he makes against these sex predators or sex offenders who fail to do the right paperwork. So he makes a big deal about those arrests on his Facebook page. That's what we call the low-hanging fruit. Yes. Are they scumbags? Probably. If they don't follow the rules, should they be arrested? Probably. But making a big deal about it on Facebook as if they're fighting big-time crime? Probably not. Maybe he should have posted something about this case months ago. Maybe when it happened. Maybe when these people got arrested. But he didn't. It's all about his image. It's all about his legacy. And we're going to get to more on that when we come around later on a different episode, which is talking about how he wants the half-cent sales tax reinstated for the next upcoming election. And what is he doing? You've heard the word extortion, right? Now, I'm not saying he's extorting anyone, but let me tell you something. The half-cent sales tax was denied by voters in the last election. Well, you know what Sheriff Nienhuis said this time? He said, well, if you guys will give me the half cent for the next 30 years or whatever it is that he wanted before for his $300 zillion empire to be built with his name tattooed all over it as so he can have the Nienhuis legacy for the Hernando County Sheriff's Office for the next 100,000 years, then yeah, you'll be happy with that. But what he wants to do is say, we'll put body cameras on our deputies if you'll approve the half-cent sales tax in the next midterm election. Listen, that's a different subject that I've got coming up in the next episode, but it just leads me to say, what is going on with this sheriff's office? And again, I go back to say, I support law enforcement 100%. I'm not one of these anti-law enforcement, defund the police journalists. I'm all about 100% law enforcement, protecting the community all the time, anytime, and the more the merrier. But back to the case that I was just referring to. Sorry, I went off on a tangent, and I digressed. But we're back to this case. How could this be allowed? How could these children be stuck, trapped, caged in a home in Spring Hill, never allowed to go to school, beat in the face with a belt, and multiple times have law enforcement and CPI investigators show up to take photographs and take testimony from the children, and they still be allowed to stay in the home with these adoptive parents. How is that allowed? And not until 6 months later, till just a few days ago, Kimberly and Santos Escobar, I can't remember how to say their name. I can't remember. Anyways, you get the picture. They're both charged with aggravated child abuse. Of course, they're free. Hours later, they're free on $5,000 and $10,000 bond. Now the children are in protective custody, and that's fantastic. That's great. Why did it take a year or more? We don't even know how long these children have been abused or caged in their home. It's disgusting. We'll go to our rnews.news website to see the full story and all the details, and we'll continue to follow this story. We haven't received a response from the Hernando County Sheriff's Office or DCF, of course. Rarely do in cases like this, but I'm sorry. I'm just a little, disturbed by this case. It's hurting children is probably the worst thing you could possibly do. Intentionally hurting children, but even making it worse when the authorities who are supposed to protect those children do nothing, that's even worse, and it's inexcusable. So that's all we got today. We'll have more, maybe on this story, maybe on more stories, but I just thought you needed to hear what was going on here in Hernando County with this case involving the Escobedos, that's Kimberly and Santos, and the poor children who were abused and caged inside the home for who knows how long. We'll see you next time on Get Real.